first we have to discuss what the story of Poppy Playtime is, and if it can relate to anything currently in the FNAF world. What we know about the company that seems to be the main antagonist of Poppy Playtime series, called Playtime Co., is also basically the story of the game. They seemingly hit it big in the 1960s with the release of Poppy, the world's first truly intelligent toy. This Poppy doll put them on the map, marking them as the king of toys until dolls fell out of style in the late 70s, causing Playtime Co. to have to update their repertoire and come out with newer toys like Huggy Wuggy and Candy Cat, among others. This helped them bring back some of the business they lost, but this didn't seem to be enough. They soon began seemingly experimenting with more realistic dolls in an attempt to recreate Poppy's success, because let's face it, even if there was a truly intelligent version of Poppy, not every version of Poppy would be like that. Only the one they used in commercials and later we release at the end of that chapter, just like how ice cream in commercials is really mashed potatoes. Yeah, sorry. Sentient toys, however, are nothing new to FNAF, so William wouldn't really feel like a stranger. Of course, we also have to decide what version of William comes over. If it was William, Springtrap, Scrap Trap, Burn Trap, Glitch Trap, or maybe even Dave Miller, William's alias while he was on the run and underground in the Silver Eyes novel. Because the Springtrap personality or persona is very different to the William after persona. Springtrap is a very aggressive personality compared to William, who is sneaky and calculated as opposed to Springtrap's direct approach. So assuming that since this story revolves around people more than the toys, who are definitely instrumental but not as important like they would be in FNAF, in this case we would be going with William Afton specifically, because he needs to be able to sneak around and do villainous things, whereas Springtrap would likely just end up being a toy.
Number 10, Glamrock Freddy. I would love to see FNAF come to the world of Fortnite. Think of all the cool skins! One character that I feel would be the most at home in this world would be Glamrock Freddy, who we are all big fans of and is basically our best pal for life after the events of Security Breach. It would be really cool actually to see if all the Glamrock animatronics made some kind of appearance in Fortnite, having their own event or perhaps even their own full season themed after them. It's maybe a bit of a pipe dream, but I do think it would make a lot of sense for both of these massively popular games to team up. Either way, Glamrock Freddy would be a blast to have in Fortnite. Number 9, Chica. I feel like Chica would be an interesting FNAF animatronic to have in a game like, stay with me here, Skyrim or Fable. Remember how in the first Fable game you chase chickens and you can get the nickname of Chicken Chaser? Well, what if instead chickens fought back and chased you? Chica would be the perfect mascot for the chicken uprising in the world of Fable. And when it comes to Skyrim, I have seen some mods where you basically could turn chickens into like giant chickens, or I'm not sure if that was like a mod or a glitch from adding a mod, but either way. Horrifying and definitely a place where Chica would feel at home in a place of gigantic dragon-sized chickens. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to show us some love back, be sure to hit that like button and comment below and let us know which animatronic you want to see and where. Number 8, Lolbit. This one is a bit of a joke, but also I'm kind of serious about it. Lolbit is a huge fan favorite despite being a very minor character overall in the world of FNAF. In Ultimate Custom Night, she is really just a glitch, and that's why I think she'd actually be perfect for the super glitchy and frustrating Blair Witch video game. Don't get me wrong, I actually really love Blair Witch, or well, I would love it if I could like actually continue to play it. I played Blair Witch on Xbox through my Game Pass, and honestly I could never finish it because it was too glitchy. Like, it was unplayable, that level of glitchy. The glitches were sometimes scary, but mostly just super frustrating, which is why I think Lolbit would weirdly fit right into this game. At least then I'd have the lovable Lolbit to look at while the game glitched to the point that I just couldn't play it anymore.
And it's 7, Daycare Attendant. The Daycare Attendant, otherwise known in-game as Sun or Moon, is a superstar daycare animatronic that appears in Security Breach as a recurring antagonist in his Moon form. As Sun, the daycare attendant is upbeat and energetic, annoyingly so, similar to Funtime Freddy. He enjoys doing activities with children, such as putting on puppet shows and drinking fizzy fazz. I don't know why a robot is drinking soda, but that's aside the point. When Gregory knocks down the like plush can things as a way to distract him, Sun will panic and quickly rush to clean them up. He's also very serious about keeping the lights on as a way to prevent himself from transforming into his Moon version. As Moon, the daycare attendant is malevolent and aggressive and constantly chases Gregory once the lights are off and then every hour on the hour, and tries to punish him for going past his bedtime and being a naughty boy. I wish I was lying. Even though Moon still has a distaste for messes and is responsible for cleaning them up as his daytime counterpart is, but he does so in a more demented way. But I think that an amiibo that includes both of these characters on a stand, maybe back to back, would be really awesome. If these two characters like looking at him like going like this or something like back to back, I don't know, I think it would be really cool. And I mean, like, I don't know what else to do, but yeah, I don't know what else I can say. But it would be cool, okay? And I like cool things, so let's do it. Halfway through to number 5, VR Toy Freddy. VR Toy Freddy is a neon-themed skin for Toy Freddy released on May 7th of 2020 in FNAF AR. He's the first skin for Toy Freddy in the game, actually, and he's the first of 3 to be added for the Arcade Mayhem event. He appears to be similar to Toy Freddy in nature, kind of. He almost like shares the same model with him, but he's wearing VR goggles this time around, kind of like me when I'm depressed. His appearance is a dark neon purple, and he's got like neon, I know he's not neon black, but like, you know what I mean, okay? He has it on his hat, his bow tie, his buttons, his microphone. You're seeing it on screen right now. He's got kind of like those like cyber circuit lines a little bit, and he wears like a VR headset, like I said. But during encounters, he's actually replaced by his attack mode variant named Livewire Toy Freddy. In this form, his purple color turns to a fiery orange. He's covered in several glowing yellow circuit web textures, and he no longer wears his headset and reveals his horrifying bright yellow greenish eyes. And I think that that kind of thing would be really cool, like maybe if you had like the Livewire version replacing his back. So like instead of a bland back, like the normal one, you would have like his other version kind of coming out of him, which would be really cool to see. I want that. And at 4, Shadow animatronics. The FNAF Shadow animatronics are probably some of the most mysterious animatronics to date. These shadowy figures first appeared in FNAF 2, but have never gotten a solid explanation, much like most of this series. But the Shadow animatronics are really a special case, with the 2 main ones being Shadow Bonnie and Shadow Freddy, and the odd appearance from Shadow Dee Dee, who honestly, Shadow Dee Dee isn't even mentioned in the Freddy files. There has to be something more with these animatronics, right? But honestly, we have no idea what these are, and there are plenty of theories about them. That they're Springlock victims from before William was, the bite of 87, or maybe even the bite of 83, that Shadow Freddy is Crying Child, which kind of comes out of nowhere in my mind and doesn't really explain Shadow Bonnie, that the shadows are manifestations of emotions other than agony, or that they're just spirits, but they got kicked out of their animatronics when they were filled with new victims. But despite all of this, we still have nothing. So Shadow animatronic amiibos would be a great way to explain these characters properly, and it's something that we really need explained because it's been bugging me for a while and I'm tired of getting DMs about it.
Number 3, Circus Baby. I know I already said that I would love to see Freddy in DVD, but you know me, I'm a huge Sister Location fan. And I also quite enjoy Dead by Daylight when I can find the time to get on and play. So obviously I need to talk about more than one character that I think would make a good villain for Dead by Daylight DLC. And for my next choice, and my even more preferred choice actually I'd have to say, I would go with Sister Location villain and in a way, victim, Circus Baby. I think Circus Baby is my favorite antagonist when it comes to the FNAF franchise, and she also happens to be one of my favorite characters overall. Plus, I just really want those Sister Location maps in Dead by Daylight, which I think would be really fun to run around and attempt to survive or stalk your prey in. Number 2, Glamrock Chica. So confession time. I play a lot of restaurant time management games, and for some reason in my weird mind, I can imagine Glamrock Chica in the role of like server or possibly even manager of an establishment that you play as. Yeah, I was big into Diner Dash back in the day, and I actually still play Cooking Fever on the semi-regular. And also, if you have actually any restaurant time management games you think I should play, let me know in the comments. I've played a lot of them. I could see Glamrock Chica having her own game where she manages a pizza restaurant, making and serving pizza to guests, and maybe sometimes, you know, sneak in one of her own. My favorite character in Security Breach aside from Glamrock Freddy was probably actually Glamrock Chica, who I just felt I connected with over our true and unshakable love of pizza. I love the za, what can I say? Number 1, Springtrap. A new game just recently released that I think would be a great fit for Springtrap if he were to wander outside the world of FNAF. That game is Evil Dead, the game. Evil Dead, the game is similar to Dead by Daylight, but differs with one pretty major aspect. As a survivor, you can actually fight back. So how rewarding would it be to take on an army of perhaps animatronic deadites being led by none other than William Afton, aka Springtrap himself? I know I would be here for that. I don't know if you're here for that, but I'm here for that. Dead by Daylight is a game that constantly has updates where new villains and maps are added from famous horror films, games, stories, and fandoms. Perhaps Evil Dead could go down the same route, and if so, Springtrap could actually be a villain that we might even see there somewhere down the line.
And it's in Helpy. I feel like Helpy is an obvious place to start this list. I mean, even in the FNAF universe, Helpy is a small plastic figure from Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator. He's also a recurring character and an opponent in Ultimate Custom Night. Helpy is a mini version of Funtime Freddy from Sister Location with a white body, purple accents, pink cheeks, a small black top hat, eyebrows, and his eyes composing of purple eyelids, blue irises. But against his original counterpart, he has actually two circular hands, 4 fingers, and no toes, and no faceplates. He's just got the one face. He also seems to be pretty fragile, since every time you act like he hits the ground or gets hurt in a minigame, he breaks his neck. When Helpy appears in Ultimate Custom Night's office though, the player needs to click on him quickly, otherwise he'll start wailing the air horn, which will agitate sound-sensitive animatronics and result in them trying to kill you. So yeah, I mean, we all love this guy too. Plus, we know for a fact that someone is going to tear him off of his base, add a bodybuilder body to it, and then add his head back on top. And you know what? That's the kind of dedication we need. That's the kind of dedication that prevents all forms of anxiety in relationships. That's true love. In at 9, Piranha Plush Trap. Piranha Plush Trap is Plush Trap's second skin from FNAF AR and the third skin overall in the Wicked Tides event. He was released on June 7, 2021 after being delayed 3 days for unknown reasons, and we actually had made a community post about him in the past, I think shortly after he was released. But personally to me, this is one of the scariest FNAF AR skins that they've ever added. Piranha Plush Trap is hardly like the original Plush Trap, now being made of a more organic flesh-like material and having realistic gums. His mouth is littered with long, thin, sharp teeth, and his eyes are extremely small and glow like a kind of ocean blue because, Wicked Tides, Piranha, you get the idea. On the sides of his head are glowing orange gills, his feet glow that same orange color, his hands have orange webbing between them, and basically anything that's supposed to be somewhat fish translucent is orange. His ears are covered in small barnacles, and his mouth, stomach, right leg, and other areas are covered in string-like algae. And when I said other areas, I just meant in general, not specifically, okay? Finally, his body is also covered in spikes and his torso is split open, revealing his ribs. And you know what? While he may not be present in the normal games aside from FNAF AR, I think that this could be a cool way to get skins for Plush Trap in FNAF 4 or even Ultimate Custom Night. This could be a cool way to introduce kind of paid skins into the game, but while also giving you a physical item so that you don't feel like you really wasted your money. Which is something that I know at least my parents would have brought up if I asked for them to buy a skin for a game, which I never did because I didn't play games that had that, but if I had done that, they would have been oh, you're just buying a skin for a game, you don't get anything for it, it's useless, blah. So there you go, you get rid of that. Marketing. I went to school for that. And at 8, Flamethrower Bear Endo. Speaking of skins, Flamethrower Bear Endo was a new summer-themed animatronic added in the July 23rd, 2020 update from FNAF AR, known as the Sizzling Summer Event. Flamethrower Bear Endo is an orange endoskeleton with a large red welding mask and 2 large gas canisters on his back. The canisters are hooked up to a flamethrower attached to his arm, and I think you can see why I like this character. He may not be the most intimidating looks-wise, but the fact that he has a flamethrower probably makes him the most dangerous out of the bunch. Plus, I love fire. Some of these are sure to have their advantages as well. Some of these characters are only good underwater or something, but this dude will just burn your house down for fun and won't really regret a thing about it, okay? Mostly because robots don't have emotions, but still, that's something to be scared of, okay? This guy is actually pretty cool. He's willing to burn down, and I don't think that he'll really be waiting for your approval before absolutely going ballistic. But maybe this would be an interesting way of getting new animatronics for Ultimate Custom Night, or maybe a skin for the Easter egg endo that you can find in Help Wanted in FNAF 2 that can show up in the office. So they have a flat mode for that on the Switch, I'm pretty sure, right? Is that a thing? Okay. I mean, it could be a way to customize your security office in a sense,
Number 7, Adventure Spring Bonnie. Okay, so what if instead of Rabbids, we had a bunch of Bonnies in the game. I'm just saying, I feel like a good way to market the Rabbids game would be to either do a fully FNAF Bonnie version with like little adventure spring Bonnies from FNAF World, or possibly even just spring Bonnies from FNAF World, or a mashup of the two. Rabbids has found success before in mashup games, like the surprising success of Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which I think many people did not expect in terms of the game's overall success. So what if we did something similar even to that, but with FNAF Bonnie versus Rabbids? That could be cool, right? Number 6. Music Man. Music Man has always been one of the trippiest animatronics to me, which is why I think he would be such a good fit in a game like Amnesia. Amnesia is a horror game where your sanity is at stake, and the more you get spooked, the more you will encounter spooky things, meaning that basically getting scared just leads to like more scary stuff happening to you. As your sanity is affected, you begin to hallucinate, and the game very much relies on creating a sense of paranoia for the player, which it does quite beautifully. Although this game has very medieval sort of vibes, I feel like Music Man would still fit in oddly well here when it comes to him being one of the monsters or hallucinations that you encounter. I'm still reeling from those vent chase scenes in Security Breach, and don't even get me started on like that whole giant Music Man thing. Number 5. Captain Foxy. This version of Foxy appears in the virtual reality FNAF game Help Wanted, and I feel like based on his look here, he'd be perfect as a character in a game that I actually want to play but I haven't played yet, called Dread Hunger. Dread Hunger is a game that is likely inspired by the Erebus and Terror ships that were lost during an expedition to find the legendary Northwest Passage. The crew of both met an untimely end and are believed in present day to have basically gone mad and resorted to cannibalism due to their food being contaminated by the tins they were packaged in and driven sick and mad by lead poisoning. I could see Captain Foxy fitting on well aboard this crew, although he might have to swap his Jolly Roger for the Union Jack to get aboard. However, I will say this game is a deception game where a few of the crew seek to sabotage and destroy their efforts unless stopped, so playing as Foxy, a fox and an animatronic, might lead others to be inherently suspicious of you off the bat. Number 4. Freddy Fazbear. I'm surprised this one has not actually happened yet. Dead by Daylight is an online video game loved by horror fans and video game fans alike, of which I am sure there is much overlap. This PvP game pits survivors against a master villain who they must defeat in a one versus many showdown that almost always, for me, feels pretty impossible. Granted, I've never tried to play as like the hunter, as like the villain of the game, but I generally just get too spooked to be at my most useful when I'm playing as a survivor in this game. I pretty much almost always die. Add Freddy into the mix and this would likely be even worse for me. While William Afton is the real main antagonist of the FNAF franchise, I feel like Freddy would be a good fit here because he is the mascot of Freddy's Pizza and one of the most recognizable animatronics when it comes to those who are less familiar with the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. Although to be honest, I'd kinda love to see all the major animatronics show up in DBD at some point.
Getting close to the end to number 3, Nightmare. Nightmare is the main antagonist of FNAF 4, okay? He also comes back in Ultimate Custom Night. Nightmare is a bipedal black nightmare bear animatronic, fairly obvious. His face has like scratches and is distorted all over it, his muzzle and jaw contains sharp teeth, he has blood stains on the corner of his gums and like on his teeth, and I don't get why because he's supposed to be a freaking nightmare animatronic. He has red irises, his pupils like glow white, and I don't get it, okay? His body feature also, like, it contains like lighter accents kind of on his stomach, but again, it's all black, so I don't really know why they tried to do that. He's got a shiny yellow bow tie and another set of teeth over his stomach, because of course he does. Nightmare Fredbear and Nightmare are also a tag team duo, invisible in Ultimate Custom Night on the cameras, and you can only really see them when they reach your doorways. And even when they do reach your doors, only their eyes are visible, but like, come on, okay? You know that this amiibo would be bad. Especially since Nightmare is like kind of translucent, okay? That would be just damn cool to see on an amiibo, okay? Do it. Do it, damn it. But ultimately, in at number 2, Purple Guy. While Purple Guy is not an animatronic, I still think that the most iconic FNAF character would be required as an amiibo. Like, I don't wear purple on this channel anymore because people kept calling me the Purple Guy, and the cops don't need any more ammo against me, okay? I wore it recently, but then I remembered, oh yeah, they call me a serial killer in the comments whenever I wear this, so I put it back after work and never looked at it again. Whether it be realistic or a pixelated version, I still think it would be great to see. I personally would prefer prefer the pixelated version, so like do like a 3D of the original sprite that was introduced in FNAF 2. And if you don't agree and would rather have like the Dave Miller from the graphic novels version of the Silver Eyes, I'm going to ask you to kindly click off this video, mostly because I know that you won't because you made it this far already, so why leave before seeing number 1? But I also need to express my disappointment with how you want a realistic human purple guy instead of the iconic pixelation. So anyway, moving on to number 1. This number was mostly just to criticize you, like the majority of my trips to my parents' house. This idea started for me when I thought about how souls in some ink monsters allowed them to persist after death, and how the ink machine would go about accomplishing such a task. I mean, we still don't know. Out of the thousands of souls that I've taken, I haven't been able to infuse them into many objects. So how could this machine do it consistently? The solution seemed to come to me thanks to Five Nights at Freddy's. Agony. For you Bendy fans, if you don't know, possession in the FNAF universe is actually through the emotion of agony rather than an actual soul, since agony is the most powerful emotion and reaches further from the body than any other emotion, even anger or sadness. So when a character in the FNAF universe suffers an agonizing death, that pain and suffering is able to allow them to potentially possess an object, an animatronic, or otherwise, even sometimes a person, as we see in one case. Yeah, there's a person who was possessed in the FNAF series. So if this ink machine is able to infuse these characters with souls, maybe instead the machine is killing these sacrifices and using their agony to grab hold of the character that the machine creates. It explains why a few characters who have a soul are mostly evil. I mean, they've suffered tremendous pain. And while Evil Alice says that she went through the machine multiple times, she could be lying. She's evil. Or the agony attached onto that specific section of ink, thus letting it go through the machine again and again, instead of the whole a drop of water in the ocean is rarely seen again mentality that we see come from good Alice. But that's not really enough evidence to definitively say that Bendy and FNAF are the same universe, right? I mean, it's not even evidence, it's just potential. Is there anything else that gives us an explanation in another game, or vice versa? Actually, it could explain how William Afton plans to escape the virtual world in Security Breach. Now, we know that William is trying to escape the FNAF VR game we test, known as Freddy Fazbear's Virtual Experience, and this is because while he may be able to control certain individuals, like Vanny, for instance, he cannot control them completely, as we see in the FNAF AR emails, so he wants to get out and get back to his world. How could he do this? Well, how about with equipment similar to the ink machine? While yes, it wouldn't really be the ink machine itself, a machine that is capable of infusing something with a soul or agony like we see the ink machine do, could very well be what allows William to move from the virtual world back into a robotic endoskeleton, or something similar like we see in the last seconds of the Security Breach trailer. Since converting sentient computer code into a living AI in a sense is certainly easier said than done. I mean, this isn't Doki Doki Literature Club, right? So what machine could this be? It's honestly hard to tell. It could be anything. However, it could be made using similar or scrapped parts from the ink machine, or gone through whatever process caused the ink machine to get haunted or whatever it had to go through to gain its powers in the Bendy games. Knowing that the only true working human toy hybrid is actually out and has been released from its prison would certainly entice the man that just wants to use this technology to bring back his son to come out. So in chapter 2, if William was in Poppy Playtime, he could reasonably be the villain that we'd be fighting. Experiment 1007, if you will. So he'd come after Poppy so that he could study her and make sure he knows how to bring his son back. Well, maybe. However, he would soon learn that the secret to recreating Poppy was that the person becoming the toy would have to be willing to do so, like Poppy's human and William were. Yeah, because William willingly turned himself into a toy to survive Huggy, he's also one of these perfect human toy hybrids, meaning that to become a toy, the person would have to be alive, which would send William spiraling and probably turn him into the Springtrap we all know and love, but also hate. For me, mostly hate. He needs to die. Hell, you know what? Just for literary significance, he may even just set fire to the Playtime Co. facility just out of anger. Because honestly, that would make sense given the history of this character in the other franchise. We'd obviously end up surviving this fire though, and Springtrap would later become the main antagonist, while we spent our time fighting off the other experiments that escaped. So we'd have 5 additional chapters, at least after Chapter 2, where we'd fight experiments 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, and 1005, assuming that that's the scheme that they'd be going with. But the whole time, we'd wonder why Afton didn't kill us directly, and instead just tried to crash the building down on us, which in reality gave us plenty of time to escape, which would also be a big mystery of the game and the ongoing chapters. He could have had us by the throat and then let go to run away. And we wouldn't know until the final chapter that the reason is because we are either Afton's child or the toy of one of his kids, which is why he released us and gave us a chance to leave, resulting in a final battle between father and son where he realized that it's him or us, meaning he doesn't care if we're his son. He's seen how fragile this form can be and is now in the form of Springtrap known as Scraptrap. We end the fight by burning down the building with us inside as well, alluding to FNAF 6, killing all of us, or at least it seems that way, because, you know, he always comes back. In the final chapter, we get one final scene of something crawling out of the burnt down ruins of whatever warehouse we were in that stored all the Playtime Co. toys. And as we zoom in, we see bunny ears. And the most recent form of Springtrap, Burntrap, emerges from the rubble, and the scene cuts to black. Poppy playtime may be over, but Burntrap's playtime is just beginning. That sounds kind of creepy, considering how he wants to lure kids to the back of pizza joints. And they could be from the same manufacturer, or they could just honestly, it could just be the ink machine itself. Now, do I think it's going to be the ink machine? Absolutely not. It would just be another machine that we have that would link to the ink machine in some way, but I don't think it's entirely out of the question. I mean, it's definitely not going to be intentional, but hey, it's fun anyway. Bendy and the Ink Machine started in 2017, which is 3 whole years after FNAF released its first game, and is the year after Sister Location came out. Plus, later that year we got Pizzeria Simulator, which could have some subtle references to Bendy and the Ink Machine that we just aren't aware of. So while it's still unlikely that we end up getting a solid, confirmed canon link between these games, it's still fun to speculate and provide answers for questions using the laws of another universe. But I guess at this point, it's not another universe at all, right? Well, actually, like, if we think about it, maybe we can work 2 versions into this series. So, if Afton was in Poppy Playtime, he would probably just end up being a higher up at the company. Just because he doesn't seem like a man who sees living doll or truly intelligent doll and then doesn't do anything about it. Okay, look, if Afton's coming over, his story has to come over as well. It can't be just some random dude who's named William Afton. So he would have to have the story of wanting to bring his kids back. So, after hearing this, he would start at the company and eventually work his way up. By the time the actual game comes around, I'm guessing that he'd be pretty high up, like on the board of directors or shareholders or whoever it is at least. But I think that he wouldn't be CEO or close to that, because like, he doesn't seem like that type. He'd have worked his way up because he doesn't seem like the kind of person who likes working for other people, you know, like he likes to be in control. Hence why his targets for his crimes are kids, since they're easier to control. So he'd be a higher up at the company, and not the top because he wouldn't want all that attention, and it would probably have been his idea to try and recreate the success of Poppy with new toys, since his goal of bringing his children, or at least the crying one, back would kind of still need to be there for this character to make sense. Like I was explaining earlier, he kind of need to have that, otherwise it's not William, it's just some guy. Although everything associated with the pizzeria in his story could just be a separate entity within the Poppy Playtime world. As a reasonable extension of William being the one who suggests these experiments, I'm also going to be guessing he's the one conducting them, since if nobody can do it right, you gotta do it yourself when it comes to creating human toys. That sounds weird. This then leads him to create Experiment 1006 that then escapes, like we see during the events of Poppy Playtime Chapter 1. So Afton's voice would be the one that we heard on the tapes. This would probably mean that he's actually dead, because, you know. But no. So instead, since he knew about the risks, he would take those into consideration and would probably have a backup plan if anyone or anything ended up going haywire. Probably something that turned himself into a toy or something similar to give him enhanced strength and stamina, as well as just keep him alive longer. No longer needing to eat and sleep. Thus, Springtrap is born. Well, the Springtrap that would be in this universe. So here, Springtrap wouldn't really be an animatronic suit that Afton got spring locked in, but rather the toy that Afton would have turned himself into. Willingly, might I add. But they'd still remain largely the same, since both have Afton's organic body inside them, yet still enhancing it in some way. So after we knock down Huggy Wuggy, we go to release Poppy, thus ending the first chapter. My idea would be that this is actually what William wanted all along. Or maybe not what he wanted specifically, but something that would draw him out.